Hey, everybody. My name is Alex Bouks. This is my co-host, Roger Sutherland, and this is the first episode of the Guitar Gear Locker. And I'm happy to say that this is our first episode, and having my old friend Eric Cutler from the mighty Autopsy as our first guest. Eric is one of my favorite guitar players, and I'm just pleased to have him as our guest. And welcome, Eric.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, Eric, I guess first question is kind of a two-part question I have is, basically, do you remember when it was that you got the bug for music, and was there a moment when you knew that you were going to be a guitar player?
Well, I was really young. My house was a musical house, not musicians really, but my mother was from the South, and she was really into old country music, and she played all the old school stuff, and I kind of grew up listening to all the old stuff. And when I was 5 years old, I got my first real taste of something on my own. I got a Beatle record for Christmas at 5. And when I was 9, I discovered Black Sabbath, and that kind of set the tone for me at that point. But so
nice. And was there a moment when you decided, like, hey, I'm gonna be a guitar player? That's what I want to do.
When I first heard rock and roll, like you hear that guitar, that distorted guitar, you hear Michael Schenker or, Randy Rhoads, or you hear Richie Blackmore or some killer shit. And you're like, I want to do that. How do they do that? You start playing young, you start figuring out these little tiny themes, and it just grows and grows and grows. And it's a bug that starts right away. For me, it did. It was like it was like a parasite. I was like, okay, I'm taking over now.
Yeah. It was the same for me as well. Yep. So a lot of this show is going to be geared towards the instruments that inspires us and stuff like that, and the tools that we use to express ourselves. So I kind of want to go back a little bit in time before we get to the newest record. Go back, if we could travel back to like the demo days up until Severed Survival. And if you can remember some of the gear that you were using back then, because I remember particularly, me and you've talked about this years ago, because I still had those visions of you with the red Ibanez Destroyer. And I know that was probably one of your probably main guitars back in the early days. But what was the like the rig that you were using? If you can remember, like the demos up into Severed Survival. I'm thinking it's probably a lot of the same stuff you were using back then.
Yeah, it was. Well, of course, I was a kid and I was broke, So the very first guitar I ever had was an acoustic guitar that my mom bought me from Sears, Sears and Roebuck. And
nice.
I started playing guitar. My older brother had acoustic guitar, and I started sneaking on his guitar when nobody was around, and I was told not to ever touch it. And I started playing his guitar a bit, and I got caught one day, and I got in trouble for it. My brother dragged me to mom and like, hey, he's touching my guitar again. And I was like, no, wait. I know how to play something though. And they're like, okay, well, what? And I played the riff for Crazy Train. And I was like, I learned this today. Right. And my brother was all pissed still. He was like, my mom was like, okay, actually you did something. What else can you do? And I was like, I can play a D chord. So I just strummed a D chord. Damn,
right.
Open D, open A, open D, open A, like the country, little stupid thing.
Yeah.
And my mom was hooked. She was like, okay, it's all good. I'll get you a guitar. So she bought me this cheap ass guitar, and it lasted a little bit. I got a after school job, making tiny bits of money, and I saved every fucking penny I had, and I bought that Ibanez Destroyer. And when I bought that kind of set the tone for playing, metal. Before that, it was like I was just hurting my fingers every day just trying to learn stuff because that guitar sucks so bad. But I got the Ibanez, and I was like, okay, killer. And I didn't have an amp, so I got a piece of shit fucking PV bass amp, a little fucking PV bass amp with like a 10-inch speaker in it. Might have been a 12.
Mhm.
I think it was a 12. Just a piece of shit. And that's what I recorded the guitar for Severed on. Was
Right.
that and a Boss DS1 distortion pedal.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's all I
Orange
used
Power.
for Severed.
Yeah. Nice.
You know,
Perfect.
simple,
Yeah.
fucking no money,
Yeah.
just whatever I could, get. But
Mhm.
It's funny, you
Yeah.
mentioned the Sears or Roebuck. That was my first guitar. I think the action was like 2 inches off the fretboard.
oh yeah, painful, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I smashed that guitar in the street because I was saving every week, and I was like, when I get money and buy this guitar, I'm gonna take that piece of shit and smash it in the fucking street. And when I got the money, that's exactly what I did. I went out and I smashed it in the street, and I felt stupid afterwards. I was like, I'm not Pete Townsend. What the fuck am I doing?
Yeah,
You know,
I
but
still have
Yeah,
mine
yeah.
in the closet behind me. Every time I
nice.
look at it, I'm like, man, I need to do something with that to get it playable. It's still not playable.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, mine never was, but
You're right.
it got me started though. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was the same thing with me. I had a real cheap nylon classical string guitar with the action like this, and
yeah.
I used to bleed like crazy, but it
Oh yeah.
built up the strength in my fingers doing the scales and the chords and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I have a similar story as you, but yeah, I was always, that guitar is like, that's the earliest images I have of you from the fanzines and stuff of that red, Ibanez. And I'm pretty sure I remember you telling a story that you traded that guitar for the Gibson, the Les Paul,
I
that you
did.
probably used for a lot of the records.
I did. So the Gibson Les Paul, I traded that Ibanez for. I wish I would have kept it, but I traded it for the Gibson, and then the Gibson was used after that on Mental and going forward after that. But obviously, Killer Guitar, I still have it. It's on the wall, I think, behind me over here somewhere. But
Nice.
yeah, there it is. You can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I do see it. Awesome. Yeah.
But,
So
yeah.
also, Autopsy's music, like for me, there's a lot of things that I hear in the music that probably your average metal kid would not pick out. But I hear a lot of like psychedelic influences, a lot of 60s and 70s influences. Could I be onto something there that there's a lot of that kind of creeping in the music?
Yeah, most definitely. It's I mean, we've always had a formula of no formula. It's just whatever kind of works and whatever groove works. We'll go to practice sometimes and we'll spend 30 minutes on like a jam, and we'll just go like 30 minutes and not stop, and we'll just go all through kind of weird shit, and it's just fun, and we just improvise, and it's super fun. So like influences, that you have, they're going to come out. For us, they do. They're going to come out because we don't try to put anything really in there on purpose. It's just kind of whatever, sounds good and goes with the flow at the moment. But it's going to expose, those themes. But
Yeah. Because I always heard a lot of like kind of atmospheric psychedelic kind of stuff, and even some of the solos that you and Danny would do. And question I have about Danny is, he joined the band, I guess was probably 88. He started playing with you guys like right before Christmas Madness demo.
yeah.
So was there anything in particular, like, when Danny joined the band, that opened you up more as a guitar player, where you have more room to do things? And was there anything that his playing inspired you guys, musically, with the vision that you and Chris originally had? The band, did it expand the band in any way, or?
Well, it's interesting thing because Danny played in a band with my older brother before he was in Autopsy, which was kind of years before that. And then he was in the Oakland version of Bloodbath,
Right.
And a good friend of mine, John Chandler, he kind of was trying to hook us up for a while, and we finally got together, and we like Danny. We love the style. It's it's he always had kind of like a punkish type style, but his solos I always thought were killer, and I always loved his style of throwing solos in it. I don't know if it opened anything up. It just it helped me because I didn't have to do everything. I had another person that could play killer solos that knew more than I did. Danny was trained. he took lessons from a trumpet player when he was young, and so all of the guitar scales and stuff he does, it's all based on like trumpet scales and stuff.
Wow.
And it
Nice.
sounds weird as fuck, you know, but when you listen to his solos, you'd never really think that. But when you know that and you listen to some of the shit he does and you watch these weird things he does, you know, you get it. You go, yeah, it's fucking weird, you know? And I love that. And it did influence me because he was way faster than me, you know? When he joined the band, I was 19, I think.
Mm-hmm.
When he joined the band, he was 20, 28. And he was killer. You know, I was like, yeah, I need a guy that can come in and shred shit, you know, and I don't have to fuck off and do my noodle solos and because I don't know what I'm doing yet.
Yeah. It's funny how you say about Danny with these, you know, some of the, you know, taking the lessons from the, you know, that incorporated into his solos. And the thing about both of you guys is, and I think is the most important thing about any guitar player is identity. And if I hear Danny playing a solo or I hear you playing a solo, I know it's either one of you guys, you know, and it's because you guys have that tone, that identity that sets you out from everybody else, you know. So I would maybe talk about the newest record and what you guys were using in the record and how it was recorded. And I don't know if you guys still do this, but I know that you guys used to, like, pretty much for the most part, most of the record was recorded live, you know, like a lot of the tracks, and you do some overdubs. Is that still the case today where you before you guys just get in and just start jamming out?
It's always recorded live. So that's kind of, it has to be that feeling when we go in. We don't go in and go, okay, we're going to track this, we're going to track that. Here's a click track. Here's that. It's fuck that. So we like to have the organic feel, as, you know, fucking people like to say. You go in and you have that, you know, there's a certain element to that. It's not perfect, you know, and it's not supposed to be perfect.
Right.
Yeah. You know, so I've had people ask me if I'll play stuff to a click track, and I'm like, okay, I can, you know, that's easy as hell. You know, I can, but what fun is that? You know, after how many minutes of listening to that, how you get bored of that. You're like, okay, you get fatigued of listening to it. So we like to go in there and do it all live. And there's overdubs, obviously, you know, you fix all the fuck ups and that kind of shit. Now that we have Greg in the band, because Greg owns Earhammer Studios, he's a fucking master engineer. He's killer, you know. So Greg doesn't want to go in there and record all his bass lines live, and that's going to be his bass lines, you know. He sits in with us and he plays live with us in the studio, but he goes back and records all his shit over again, you know, sets everything up the way he wants it to be and makes his changes, and he records all his shit over again. But we still play everything live in the same room, so everybody has the same feel, and we're looking around the room at each other, and, you know, there's a certain theme with that. I think that it's kind of a lost art almost. People don't do it anymore, you know.
Yeah. Well, I love that about you guys, you know, and it's just, you know, you're getting the real deal there, you know, on tape, you know, or on the recording, you know. It's you still hear that to this day, all these records, and I could hear that, you know. It's just,
it's still part of
together,
you know, it's part of the psychedelic influences and all the old school influences and shit like that. You know, can you imagine fucking Black Sabbath recording to a click track, Bill Ward recording to a click track?
No,
that would never happen. You know, but
too much like a machine.
It's too much like a machine.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So what was some of the, you know, what was like some of the instruments you used in the rig that you used in the newest record in the studio?
Oh man, I recorded everything with the ESP guitar.
Nice.
Yep. So Danny recorded everything on his Gibson Victory that he's had forever. And we had surgery on it in the studio because it was falling apart and it was all fucked up. And we had to shove fucking toothpicks in places and all kinds of shit, man. It was to get it to fucking work. It did.
Right. Yeah.
It's a beautiful guitar, man. It's so sick, but it needs some fucking, I'd say it probably needs about, I don't know, maybe $1,500 worth of care to it. It's just been neglected over the years. It's been in Danny's hands for fucking ever, and it's been fucked. So
sounds like it has about $1 million worth of character in it, though.
It's a killer guitar, man. It's really nice.
Yeah.
The neck plays. It plays itself. You know what that is? You just fucking look at it and blow on it, and the fucking scale comes out of it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So
A
simple.
lot of history. Yeah, a lot of history in that guitar for sure. You know,
yeah.
It's like it's another thing, like image. When I see Danny, I see that guitar that Gibson.
Oh yeah.
You know? And those guitars were kind of rare too. You know, they only made them maybe like what, 2-3 years, something like that.
Yeah, they didn't make very many of them. When he bought that guitar, they had that one, that blue one, and they had a red one, and he loved the red one. And he played the red one. He's like, I don't like it. It doesn't play good. And he picked up the blue one, and he's like, oh fuck, this plays killer. He was like, I guess I'm gonna get the blue one, but he really wanted the red one. But,
nice.
So, and he still talks about it. He goes, yeah, you got to play the guitar. You can't just fucking look at the color, look at the shiny fucking candy color, and walk out with it. You got to actually pick it up and play it and see what it fucking is, you know. But
yeah. Usually it has to meet the eye test and then the hand test, you know.
Yeah. And how about the amps? What were the amps you guys are using in the studio?
Well, I use a Marshall JCM 900 that modded, and I have the 1960 cabinets. And Danny has a bunch of fucking garbage shit that's falling apart, and he's trying to upgrade it. He's starting to work on getting it upgraded. He's got a killer cabinet, but it's not all wired. Killer speakers are not all wired, so he was using one of my speakers. He's in the studio. He used Greg had a Marshall cabinet he used, and a Marshall head he used too. And I forget which one it was that he used, but I used my 900 in my Marshall cabs. But
nice.
Ibanez tube screamer in front of it, and that's pretty much the distortion tone for the rhythm.
Yeah. And as far as pickups go, are you more of an active guy or passive guy? Pickups?
Well, I like both. It really depends. Like in this this ESP I have, I like the EMG active pickups in it. You know, it's my Gibson, on the wall behind me here. The wiring's kind of fucked up and it buzzes, so I got to take it into my guitar guy and have him fix it. But those humbuckers on that, just going through a tube screamer into the Marshall, I think that sounds fucking cleaner than the active pickups. It's got more, to me, it's got more of it's a killer crunch sound without being overly crunchy and clippy type crunchy, you know?
More
I think it's
articulate.
perfect. So I probably prefer that.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure I remember you guys playing passive pickups way back in the day, and then maybe Danny had EMGs or something. I could be wrong.
Danny has EMGs in his Gibson.
Yeah.
And back in the day, I had in the Ibanez and the Gibsons are passive pickups.
Okay. And I'd say the bulk of the records you recorded with the Gibson. I'm thinking most of the albums, or
on which
first record, like the Les Paul is what you recorded most of the records with.
Severed was done with the Ibanez,
right? Okay.
And Mental was done with the Les Paul all the way until I got this ESP, which is not too many records ago. So
awesome. I'm a fellow ESP guy, so
I know you are
on the right track.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll tell you this though, you can't see it. Let's see, goddamn. See, there you go.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see a red one
right there. That's a Jackson V right there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
King V, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's got one of the fucking most beautiful necks I've ever fucking played. That guitar right there.
Nice.
It's the Jackson Phil Dimmel. It's my wife's guitar. And
awesome.
God damn, it's fucking beautiful. It plays so good. I'm gonna be playing that fucker on a lot of shit, going forward. It's fucking butter. It's so fucking fast. It's thin. It's not very wide and it's not thick, and you can just fucking fly on that fucker.
Wow. So speaking of these, for the most part, you've been known for playing like the Les Paul shape, but is there something about the V's that you like as well? That shape
I like all guitars, Alex.
Yeah, yeah.
So the best guitar I ever played in my life, it was a guitar I used to own. I had to sell it years ago when I was in a bad position. It was a Fender Stratocaster American custom shop. And it fucking shredded everything on this earth. It's nothing played as fucking good as that. Nothing.
Yeah,
It was fucking nothing.
Like for me,
it didn't do metal very well. I played 2 shows with Bolt Thrower with it here in Oakland and Pomona, Southern Cal. But I never ever used it for metal other than that. And I had to distort the fuck out of everything to get it to sound good.
I was going to say, how are you getting that sound out of the single coils?
Yeah. It was not easy. It was the Fender noiseless pickups. Because they were noiseless, I could add a shitload of gain and I could reduce that noise a bit because the way they were wired.
Yeah, you don't.
I still didn't love it, you know. But for playing like a rock and metal, I used to be in a when I quit Autopsy for years, I was in like a band. We did like Hendrix and Stones and shit like that, and I used to use that guitar for everything, and it just fucking crushed on everything, man. We'd go out and we'd play fucking Red House and fucking people fucking losing their shit, you know. The guitar sounded so goddamn good, man. Played so good. I wish I never would have had to sell it, but I was like, all right, suicide, or I guess I'll sell the guitar. But so
it
wasn't good for metal, but everything else.
Well, you know, I was saying about the V's and the Les Paul shapes. Like for me, different guitar shapes. I like to have different guitars because I think there's different songs in different guitars, and they make you play differently. You know. Yep. So, you know, I may pick up a V or an LP shape or a Strat shape, and I may write something differently. You know. So, you know, I don't know if you have the same experience. Sometimes you're like, you know what, this isn't working for me. Let me pick up this guitar and maybe a song will come out of it.
Yeah, I do. What more affects that kind of like approach for me is playing an electric guitar versus an acoustic guitar. So whenever I pick up an acoustic guitar, I have a completely 180 approach to it, and who knows what's gonna come out. It might be a song I could make a metal riff out of, or it might be a fucking Jimmy Page worship fucking lick. Who knows? But that's when I really do stuff. When I'm playing electric guitars and I'm kind of metal minded, there's not a whole lot of variance for me mentally. It's like pick up one guitar, the next, and plug it in and get a tone and a sound I like. Otherwise, I go on to the next theme, you know?
Yeah.
Do you find that I know we talked about the EMGs and active and the passive. Do you find that you gravitate towards the EMGs or more like a PAF with the Gibson, or?
I like the old school humbucker pickups.
Yeah,
I do. You know, I think they sound the best. To me, they sound the best. Autopsy's never been a really heavily overdriven sound. Right. You know, we're not ever going for that really super heavy distorted sound because we never felt it needed that. You're playing at a super loud volume, and it's heavy enough with the distortion that's on it, and we got a bass that's got distortion on it. We didn't feel we needed to go that next level of distortion, you know?
Yeah.
So and with a humbucker pickup, I think it captures that better than a active pickup, even though I play active pickups mainly until I get this Gibson fixed again. But, and I love those too, but I think there's a different sound, a different feel to me with a humbucker, and it crosses over to anything you want to do. Also, you can turn the volume on your guitar down a little bit, volume knob down. You can flip it up to the neck pickup and get a really nice bluesy fat tone out of it.
Right.
And take that drive off it a bit. So there's so much you can do with it that you can't really do with a active pickup.
Right.
But to me, the main thing is when it's really distorted, the active pickups almost have a clippy sound, a clip sound to it. They don't, I guess, you know, people don't notice it, you know, but to me, it kind of sounds that way because I like the little bit less overdriven, you know, guitar. It still gets the point driven home. And the more distortion you add, the more it's kind of makes noise and
takes away.
You know, not as able to really tell what's happening, especially at loud volumes. But
if you get a good overwound PAF, you kind of get, like you said, you kind of get that definition to it rather than it just sounded like a glob of noise, if you will. You know?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's funny you say about the gain. Is I over the years I've gotten gain. This gets less and less and less over the years for me, and people like be surprised. Like even me and Bob, like Bob is not even halfway with the game. He's like at 4 or something. But I think it, it takes away from the tone. I said, it's really in the hands, you put all that other shit in the way, it just gets in the way of, tone. And I think, it depends on what you're doing too. And, Autopsy, you guys got a lot going on. There's a lot of musical stuff going on. And,
well, that's just it too, Alex. I think people get lost in the singular sound of what does this one guitar sound like? What does this one bass sound like? What does this sound like? When you got to really think about what does everything sound like together? How does it go together?
Good point.
How does it sound? Because Danny has been a guitarist that's never liked a lot of overdrive either. A certain amount.
Yeah.
He likes the overdrive off the amp, and he doesn't really like to use a pedal, and it's enough for him. He doesn't want it to be too much. You start getting to that really overdriven sound and that can of bees, sound where it's like, okay, the fuck are we? You can't even tell what's going on anymore. So where's the riff? It disappeared in that can of bees somewhere.
Right. Wow. That's a good description. Can of bees. Haven't heard it, but it's so accurate.
Yeah. So speaking of tone, do you find yourself, still, after all these years of playing guitar, that you're still chasing a tone? Is there something that you're still looking for that you haven't gotten to yet? Or are you at that point where you're like, I'm happy with the way my guitar sounds?
No, I'm never happy with the way it sounds. I accept it. I'm happy to accept the way it sounds, but I'm always tinkering. And, I got this Line 6 Stomp, and I'm dialing in this 800 amp they have on it and some other shit. And they've got every fucking amp in there. Right. So I've been tinkering with those things. And they got these EQs and stuff on them. So I've been tweaking with obviously, high pass and low pass filters, on the tone before it does anything. But after all my distortion, everything, I've been using a tilt filter. You know what that is? So I've been using a tilt filter on it. You don't know what it is?
No.
All right. So tilt filter takes, so it's like an EQ, right? And so say you have a line, and you take a dot and put it wherever you want to put that dot. And then from that dot, you tilt it whichever way you want. Right. So you can tilt the highs up and the mids and lows go down, and you put the dot, you can put that axis wherever you want. So for me, what I find, so I like to put a low and high pass filters on and cut out the noise. And then I put a tilt filter on there, and it boosts my highs and mids a little bit that the amp's not getting, and it makes it punchy. It brings it out in the mix a little bit, and I don't have to add any gain or distortion to do that. So it's just the frequencies of the tone itself, and it works killer. So that's kind of what I've been tweaking with lately.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. It's funny because like when you said I'm never happy. And same thing with me. I'm still trying to get to that point, and find that magic combination, but I think that's what also makes music keep things exciting, is like you're always trying to outdo what you did before and trying to push forward.
You're always trying to find something new, man. If you I mean, I have some friends that, they're sound engineers and they do stuff, and they're always looking for the latest thing, the latest sound. And what they're doing right now, next month, they're not going to be doing that. They're going to be doing something different now, so you're never happy with what it is. You just got to keep experimenting and, finding what makes you happy at that moment. And tomorrow's going to bring something different.
I tell you what, I see it just runs the gamut with guys chasing stuff. And I don't think there's a guitarist out there that's found the tone he's looking for yet. Whether it's a blower switch, a treble bleed, a new set of pickups, we're always chasing something. And my wife has a saying, because she hears a lot of customers come in, she goes, look, these guitar guys just want what they want. And that's what, if they want it, we'll do it for them. And that they're looking for the tone, and a lot of times they come up with some really interesting ideas and combinations.
That's the thing about, if you have identity as a guitar player, it's like, you could plug in your amp, and Eric could plug into my amp. He's not going to sound like me. He's going to sound like Eric, and that's, the most important thing. And there's no, at the end of the day, there's no right or wrong. That's just whatever works for you to help you to express whatever you're trying to express musically.
It's the same with everybody. So you can't help that. You can try if you want to. You can try. I've known guitar players that can like emulate guitar players really well. And I don't know, whatever. It's cool. But it's, if you plug into my amp, you're going to sound like you, Alex,
right.
100%, and I'm going to sound like me, and it's just the way it is. But you can't avoid that.
Yeah,
I saw.
That's good.
Sorry about that, Alex. Eric, I was watching an interview that you did a while back, and you said one of the most interesting things. I haven't heard any guitar player say it now. You're talking about a wah pedal and using it for tone rather than a wah. That is the most interesting thing. Alex, I don't know if you heard that, but rather than just laying on it like some guitar players or like Jimi Hendrix or Stevie Ray Vaughan, he uses it to change the tone.
All the old school, all the old school killer dudes using wah pedals. That's what they did with them. Of course they use it for the wah effect.
Sure.
But when you listen to like a Stevie Ray Vaughan solos, a lot of old Hendrix solos, Muddy Waters used it. T-Bone Walker used it for this. You set it in a certain position, usually in a fatter position, not a really thin position, but a little bit thicker position. And that's your tone now.
Right.
And you're playing in that tone, you set a tone for that. And that's a really cool thing about wah pedal that when I first got a wah pedal, I didn't know about that. I was just an idiot, like going up and down like a fucking dumbass. But then you start listening to it and you discover things like this by accident. At least I did. You just have it set in a certain position. There's a solo Danny does on this latest album that he does that. He has the wah pedal. He kicked it on, and I think he didn't mean to do it. I think he meant to go back to it, but he kicked it on and it had a killer tone. He played this solo with it, and it was really killer. And then he went back to it finally and went to wah effects with it. But he used like half the solo was just the tone of where he drew that pedal back, and made it thick. And it fucking sounded sick.
Is that the first song with the ending solo? I'm pretty sure that's Danny at the end.
Yes.
The first song, and it's like real creepy, and it's got a really unique wah down to it. Oh, nice.
You know what? How many young players are going to watch this? Hopefully a lot, but how many are going to watch it and hear this and go, shit, let me try that. Never thought of that.
It's worth looking into. It's been around for a long time, but
definitely. I think the first time I stumbled on it, you hit it. I did it by accident. I was like, what the hell is going on? What's that noise? I thought something screwed up.
Yeah. Another neat thing to do is just like slowly, don't go all the way up. Don't go all the way down. Just find the upper half and just kind of slowly go back and up through that while you're playing.
Right.
Nothing really blazing fast. It'll just muddy it up a little bit slower type stuff. Just really slow with the wah. Kind of find the timing, the tempo of the song while you're doing it.
Right.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Thanks.
Yeah.
Killer.
Is there anything you guys did differently on the new record as far as like writing or the approach to writing or the recording, compared to previous records? Or was it the same routine as you guys always do when you're preparing to write a record?
Pretty much the same. Everybody writes their own stuff on their own. And we send the songs to each other, whoever's writing what, and get together, start learning them. And so it's kind of the same way. We no really need to do anything different, I guess, because it's what works. But so how do you guys do it?
Well, it depends on what band, but Imo usually Bob will have like a template of stuff, and I'll just send him. I've never written a whole immolation song, so I'll just like send like riffs, and they'll be like, "Hey, maybe this will work with that or whatever." So we'll see for this next record. That's another thing. We have some time off, so we're gonna record the new album. But we'll see. Maybe we'll try and do something a little bit differently. Like the last record, we wind up, all rehearsing together and trying to, kind of similar to the way you guys did it, So Imbo hasn't done that in years. So it was kind of like a full band, you know, playing together and working together as a band, you know. And like you said about the Autopsy records, that comes through in the music. I hear that. It's like you're listening to a live band, you know, and mistakes and all, you know, and that's where the magic is, you know. It's just like, what was that? You know, like you spoke about Jimi Hendrix, and you know, it's when Jimmy made a mistake that he stumbled onto some pretty interesting stuff, I think, you know. It's like, what, you know, Eddie Van Halen, same thing, you know, just his tinkering with guitars and amps and things like that, where he stumbled onto some things that, you know, nobody had previously, you know.
Oh, big time, man. Remember the first time you heard Eddie Van Halen?
But actually, speaking of Greg,
like, fuck.
Oh, I remember. I do.
Oh,
you know, I remember as a kid, it was my uncle actually. And, I actually saw that tour of Van Halen and Black Sabbath. You know, it was my second concert my uncle took me to. So he's the one who responsible for let me hear all the heavy rock of the '70s. And
nice.
Yeah, it was mind blowing. I'm sure it's the same thing for you. Like that guitar tone and all. It was just like, what the fuck is going on here?
It was just insane.
You know,
like,
kids don't know that. Like today, they don't know what it's like to hear that shit for the first time. You know.
Yeah. No, exciting times, man.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about Greg and, you know, him coming into the band and his contribution to the band. You know, I think he's, you know, just from seeing you guys live so many times with Greg now, man, it just seems like he's kind of like a missing link that you guys needed. Would you agree with that? You know, him as a player?
I'm sorry, what was that?
About Greg, like him joining the band and what his contribution has been to the band. And because, you know, for me, from an outsider looking in and, you know, seeing him perform with you guys, he seems like the bass player that you guys always needed. That
I know.
You know, it was kind of like the missing link, you know, if that makes sense.
So
and it's like hearing him and Chris play together. It's like they're playing the rhythm section, you know. Like I hear the drums and bass playing together, you know.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was perfect. You know, it was he was the only guy that I wanted in the band and to play bass. I already knew how good he was. He was a good friend. And when Joe left the band on good terms, he moved out of state. You know, stuff was going on with his family and he had to leave. And it came time to, you know, we needed to get somebody. He was the only, I had a list of one person, and that was him, you know, and I reached out to him and you know, he wanted to do it. And we got him in the band and he's, you know, not only is he's an amazing engineer because I've recorded with him before, not just with Autopsy, but on little other themes. I've sat in and done stuff and he's just, you know, he's the Wizard of Rock, you know, for a reason he's called that. But as a bass player, you know, I didn't really know how good he was as a bass player until we started playing with him because he's dynamic and he knows when to turn it up and when to turn it down. He knows when to float high on something. He knows when to come down and lay it down heavy and ride with the drums on stuff. You don't have to tell him anything. Like I've never had a bass player in the band. I've never had to say stuff to him. Go, hey, can you not do that? Or hey, can you do this?
Hey,
that's not the fucking note. You know.
It's
like everything, and he's always like, hey, how's that work? How's that work? It's fucking perfect, dude. Just keep doing what you're doing. Stop asking. Me. Fucking do it. You know.
Right.
So if something sounds stupid, I'll tell you. It doesn't. But
it's a beautiful thing when you can find somebody that knows when not to overplay or when to overplay and you know, playing in the pocket, you know, and I can relate to your story.
Perfect, man. It's been really fucking good having him in the band, and he's a brother to us now. And and you know, I couldn't see it any other way. You know, I don't want anybody else up there on stage with us. You know,
that's awesome.
You know, amazing. Yeah.
And I think, you know, I can see that from as an outsider. I could see the camaraderie with you guys and the chemistry that you guys have on stage, and you guys are loving it every minute, you know. And you know, I wanted to bring up something I'm thinking about Danny, and I was talking to somebody recently, and I was talking about Danny said something to me when I saw you guys in Mexico. recently, and he asked about, oh, how was your show? And I was like, I was having all these fucking monitor problems or whatever. And he's like, I don't worry about that shit. I just go up there and have fun. Fuck it, you know? And I thought about it, and I was like, he's right. It's like, just go up there and shit's going to happen. You know that, and
Exactly.
just go with it, and enjoy the moment, and have fun with it.
Exactly. That's all
I
you
see
can
that.
do. No.
You guys are having fun. And that's what it's about.
He's good at having fun on stage. When he's feeling good, he'll run over and try to knock you down. So you got to be careful.
Yeah.
Got to watch out for him.
Yeah. But I don't want to keep you too long. But Roger, you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I guess what do you think of the? And I'm kind of a newcomer. I've Alex and I were just talking this. I've kind of listened to all kinds of music through my life. Since I met Alex, I've been listening to more death metal and really appreciating it. Not only that, appreciating the community that you guys have, but I know we all seem to piss on the new generation. I don't care what you're doing. It could be in my world, firefighting or working on guitars or whatever. But what do you see coming up in death metal with this generation now? Because some of the stuff out there is really, really good, it seems, from the novice point of view.
Well, I honestly, I don't see a whole lot of stuff. I don't know what's coming out.
Right.
It's one of my favorite newer death metal bands that are not so new now is Cadaveric Incubator. I think they're really sick. They're killer riffs from beginning to end, and they're not so new now. But I don't know. I don't see a whole lot of new stuff,
Right.
But I mean, I don't pay attention to a whole lot of stuff either. So it's, I know what I know. I know when, Alex is doing stuff, when Emo's coming out with stuff, and,
right.
The bands I know, when I see that. And otherwise, if somebody's mentioning something to me, I'll check something out. But honestly, it's not, I don't see a whole lot of stuff like, okay, this is coming out. This is coming out. I'm not really into the scene, I guess, to the point where I'm in it with everybody and I know what's happening with everything. I'm kind of in my own little world over here, and sometimes I'm under a rock for a while. So
right.
And I'm happy under that rock.
Yeah. And I think you were talking earlier. You said the Line 6, right? Are you kind of dabbling into the effect side of it? I know it sounds like you have an old school rig with the tube screamer and the Marshall, but are you starting to dabble into the modeling side now?
Yeah, I'm using this Line 6 Stomp. It's got the 2203. It's got the JCM 800 on it.
Yeah.
And so I just been kind of using it the same way I used my regular setup. There's a tube screamer on it.
Right.
So I just have that in front of it. And I just I run it through the effects loop, and I bypass the preamp on the amp. And I just use the power amp, and I use the Stomp for the preamp, and then the effects. And I use the delay and reverb and chorus and flanger and some different effects that's on that thing, because it's got 8 million effects on it. So, and if you're able to put them in the right places and put your levels correctly, based on how loud you're going to be, you can actually, make them sound pretty nice. It's really important to, you can't set it up at a volume at home and it sounds killer, and go to a show and turn it up to 10 and it sounds the same. It doesn't. So you got to get in and dial it in your rehearsal room and crank that fucker up and really dial it in. You got to record it. So I record it into Pro Tools and come back home and listen to it and go back and do it again. I come back and I fuck with shit because I'm never happy, of course, right, Alex? So I'm never happy. So I keep tinkering with it. Try to find something that sounds good. But I got this little fucking, where's it at? This little fucker right here. This little fucking Stomp.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I got this fucker fucking cutting heads off, man. It sounds so fucking good. And it's got a bunch of other shit on it too. I've been fucking with the Rev Gen, red and purple amps on it. Those are killer on there. But So a lot of really nice, sweet amps on it. The Fender amps fucking kill too. Not for metal, but
Nice.
you can break out some fucking blues. You go into one of those Fender amps on there, they fucking crush, man.
Yeah, fuck
Yeah.
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 They
Some
sound good.
reverb or deluxe or something like that, or
Oh
know.
yeah, yep. The
Yeah.
vibrato, any of them.
Yeah, vibrato. Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that really surprised me when you said that earlier, because you were talking this old school rig before, and then when you started talking the modeling, I
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
expecting it. Because I know some people that we may be talking with right now that doesn't like the modeling stuff so much. Right,
Yeah,
Alex?
it's taken me a while to kind of accept it and get into it.
Yeah.
But I could record the amp itself and then record it going through that modeling amp and A/B it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
ask you to tell me the difference on it, and you wouldn't
Right.
be able to tell me the difference.
Yeah. And I have a lot of local guys that are playing in local bands that like the newer modeling, you know, if it's FM9 or Axe Effects or whatever, because they get a lot of complaints about the noise, because, you know, when you have the real amps up there, you have to get them in that sweet spot, then it just gets too loud. So a lot of people are switching over to that now.
Yeah. I'm cool either way. I'd still be good just plugging right into the amp. You know, I can go either way. I like this for the simplicity, because I can throw it in a backpack and go fly somewhere and easily have a good sound, you know, and not bring all my other pedals and all that shit, you know, and get it done. But I could see either way. You know, the Kemper profiling, those are really killer.
Right.
You know, if you profile whatever amp it is, it sounds great, and now you have that wherever you go.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you guys have coming up for the rest of the year?
Well, we're playing a killer show in Texas with a Candlemass, Hell's Heroes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Candlemass, a fucking whole shitload of bands, man. It's one of the fests we're going to play the whole weekend just so we can see everybody. You know, we rarely do that.
Candlemass alone is great.
Yeah, no doubt. Queensryche.
Yeah.
They're going to be.
Oh, Queensryche.
Nice. Yeah, they're going to be killer. So we went and seen Queensryche with Judas Priest last year at the Fox Theater in Oakland. Fox Theater is one of the best places to see a concert. It's so fucking nice inside. It's really old.
I heard they're great too. You know, Bob Ross went to see the Open for Priest, and they were like,
they crushed, man. They crushed. Del Torre, the singer, fuck, he does all that old shit fucking great.
Yeah, he's great.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, I was super impressed, man. They put on a fucking killer show. So I'm psyched to see them, you know. And I've been a fan of Queensryche since I was little, man. When they first started coming around, I was in my young days starting to play. I went and seen them play with Motley Crue, you know, way back in the day, and they came out. Queensryche came out, and they just fucking slayed. It's one of those shows that after you walk away, you're like, "Fuck, man, that's." You know, you just keep thinking about how killer that was. All the guitars, you know, the Garmo and Wilton, how killer they were on the guitar. They had acoustics set up on these stands and have their electrics down. And first time I see people do that, you know, live myself, playing killer acoustic shit and going back and forth between their dual leads and going back and forth, and duct tape vocals are so killer. That was one of those shows I was like, fuck, that's the way you do it. If you can actually get to be that good at your craft, that's how you do it, you know?
Yeah.
But so I've always been a fan of them, man. So we don't have a bunch of other stuff. We're playing Obscene with you guys. I can't really remember what else we're doing. It's not very much. I know what's that? Say it again. Decibel Fest. We're doing Decibel Fest.
Is that in August?
August, right? Yeah.
I'll see you then, because we're on it too. So now they know.
Nice.
We're both.
You heard it first.
There we go.
It's funny because Roger, you know, us and Autopsy have been playing like so many fests over the last couple of years. So it's great. So we get to see them and hang out and stuff like that. So it's two more that we're on together.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I've heard a lot about you from Alex. You know, he's told me about how far y'all go back and all the good stories. It's really just cool to hear some of these stories. Everybody that would be watching this could only imagine some of the stuff I've heard, but Yeah, he speaks highly of you. It sounds like y'all have a cool relationship that goes back a long time.
Well, we've been brothers longer than a lot of metal fans have been alive.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
That, man.
Isn't that crazy?
It is.
It's just like thinking about that.
And you live to tell about it.
Yeah.
Hell
The last tour I was on, I was sitting there telling stories to the young band on tour with us, and they're just kind of huddling around listening to the old stories, So funny. But yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, hopefully another new album soon too. It's like you guys are getting better and better. I think it's just like you're probably, as far as I'm concerned, the only, my favorite death metal band of all time, and also the band. You've never put out a bad album. It's just like there's not one bad record. You guys just, and I think it's you guys are still inspired, and excited about what you're doing after all these years.
Yeah, that's kind of you to say that. I think we're in like I don't know, weird like third phase or some weird shit. It feels we had our old days, and we came back and we had that whole run, and then just getting Greg and doing what we're doing now, it feels like kind of like a third phase to me, because the songwriting feels different, the vibe feels different, the chemistry is different, everything's kind of different now, and so it's like a whole new thing going on. So I don't know what's going to happen with it. Nobody's ready to stop by any means. We've already got some new stuff, nothing rehearsed, but we've got new material. And at some point, we're in no hurry to do anything right now new, because we've just did 2 albums back to back really fast. So our plan is just kind of take it easy, start writing some more stuff, playing together, and we kind of got a really good thing going with, because Greg owns Earhammer Studio. So what we did last time, we went to Sharkbite Studios and recorded the drums in a big ass fucking room with another really cool engineer and Greg both doing it. And we recorded just the rhythm guitars. And then we went to Greg's studio and we recorded everything else there. And it seems to be like a really good formula, because everything worked good at Sharkbite. Everything works good going back to Greg's. And with Greg, because he owns a studio, we can like go in and anytime we want, and do whatever, and it helps. And I'm starting to record more stuff at home now myself. So it makes it easy for us. There's no time limit, because always we used to be like, okay, got to get it done, got to record it by this date. We're done now. We don't even get a chance to listen to how the risks sound before you put your leads on it and figure shit out. You just fucking kick it all out and fuck it, and it's done now. And you listen to it later and you're like, fuck, I wish I could have done that different or done this or whatever, So we're not doing that now. Now we're like, fuck it, we're going to take our time and we're going to do whatever we need to do to make sure that when it gets out, that we like it, So that's kind of where we're headed now. So if it takes 2 years, it takes 2 years, but so it'll be better.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, cool, man. Well, once again, thank you, Eric, for being on the show. And, it was a lot of fun talking to you and, filling us in on all your little secrets and stuff like that. And look forward to seeing you soon. And, thanks again. And everybody, tune in. We're going to continue doing this. We have some more guests coming up as well. So, thanks again. And look out for Autopsy out on I've seen Extreme. It's something Hell's Heroes or Hell's Heroes and Decibel.
Yeah, Eric, it was great meeting you tonight, and I'm glad you got to you got to break me in tonight. This is my first ever, and I tell you, it's a real honor to be with 2 of the OGs with death rock, and it really is. Both of you, I appreciate you letting me be part of this.
Right on, man. Thanks.
Thanks.
Good to meet you as well. Thanks for having me, and keep the fucking metal flowing.
Yeah,
and look forward to seeing what you guys do with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be tuning in.
For sure, man.
Thanks.
All right, Eric. Thanks again, brother. All right, man.
Right on.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. See you guys.
All right, Eric. All right, buddy. Talk soon, man.
Yep.
All right, cool. I guess this